The passage you provided makes strong predictive claims such as that a revaluation is a foregone conclusion, and that Iraq will have to revalue the dinar and move back to Forex. Those are not established facts, and should not be presented as certain in a financial news script. A professional, monetization-safe script should clearly distinguish between opinions, market speculation, and verified economic developments. Here is a balanced version that analyzes those claims rather than presenting them as facts. Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today we're taking a closer look at a viewpoint that continues to circulate throughout the Iraqi dinar investment community. The argument suggests that Iraq has a long-term economic plan, that international partners including the United States remain interested in Iraq's economic development, and that these developments could eventually lead to major changes for the Iraqi dinar. While these ideas attract considerable attention, it's important to separate verified developments from future expectations. In today's analysis, we'll examine what is supported by current economic realities, what remains speculative, and what Iraqi dinar followers should realistically monitor moving forward. One of the recurring themes among Iraqi dinar investors is the belief that Iraq possesses enormous long-term economic potential. Looking strictly at the fundamentals, there is certainly evidence supporting the idea that Iraq remains one of the Middle East's most resource-rich economies. The country holds significant oil reserves, maintains an important geographic position, connecting regional trade routes, and continues to pursue economic reforms aimed at diversifying government revenue beyond hydrocarbons. These factors help explain why international companies and foreign investors continue to express interest in Iraq despite ongoing political and security challenges. Supporters of the optimistic outlook often argue that the United States and other international partners have strategic and economic interests in Iraq's long-term stability. That observation is not unreasonable when viewed through the broader lens of international relations. Iraq remains an important regional partner, and cooperation continues in areas including energy, infrastructure, financial sector modernization, and security. However, continued international engagement should not automatically be interpreted as confirmation that a major currency revaluation is planned or guaranteed. Governments pursue multiple strategic objectives simultaneously, and currency policy represents only one component of a much broader economic relationship. Another claim frequently discussed is that foreign investors stand to benefit substantially as Iraq's economy expands. There is some truth to the broader principle that successful economic development can create opportunities for international businesses. Energy companies, construction firms, financial institutions, logistics providers, and technology companies may all participate in projects as Iraq modernizes its infrastructure and private sector. Nevertheless, these investment opportunities do not necessarily depend upon a sudden or dramatic change in the Iraqi dinar's exchange rate. Economic growth can occur under various exchange rate frameworks depending on the policies adopted by the Central Bank of Iraq and the Iraqi government. Perhaps the most significant claim in today's discussion is the assertion that Iraq must eventually revalue its currency and return fully to international foreign exchange markets. This is an area where careful analysis becomes especially important. Iraq already participates in international financial transactions, and its currency is exchanged internationally under specific market conditions. However, the Iraqi dinar is not freely traded worldwide in the same manner as many major global reserve currencies. Whether Iraq ultimately adopts a more flexible exchange rate regime depends on numerous factors including inflation, foreign exchange reserves, banking reforms, fiscal discipline, anti-money laundering compliance, capital market development, and broader macroeconomic stability. Currency policy is generally determined by central banks according to economic conditions rather than investor expectations. The Central Bank of Iraq has repeatedly emphasized its objectives of maintaining price stability, protecting purchasing power, strengthening the banking sector, and ensuring orderly foreign exchange markets. Any future adjustments to exchange rate policy would likely reflect those institutional priorities rather than external speculation. Another point worth considering is the ongoing modernization of Iraq's financial infrastructure. Over the past several years, Iraq has introduced reforms designed to improve electronic payments, strengthen banking supervision, increase transparency, modernize customs procedures, and enhance compliance with international financial standards. These reforms are often cited by observers as evidence that Iraq is gradually integrating more deeply into the global financial system. For Iraqi Dinar followers, these structural reforms deserve close attention because they represent measurable developments supported by official announcements and economic policy initiatives. Banking modernization may improve investor confidence, facilitate trade, encourage foreign direct investment, and strengthen financial stability over time. While these reforms alone do not confirm future exchange rate changes, they contribute to creating a more resilient financial environment. Many investors naturally ask whether these reforms could eventually support greater international acceptance of the Iraqi dinar. From an economic perspective, stronger institutions generally improve confidence in a country's financial system. Stable inflation, credible monetary policy, transparent banking regulation, sustainable government finances, and diversified economic growth all contribute to long-term currency strength. These are gradual processes that typically unfold over years rather than overnight. It is also useful to understand why exchange rate policy is approached cautiously by central banks around the world. A significant appreciation in a currency's value can affect exports, imports, government revenues, inflation, employment, and fiscal planning. Policymakers therefore weigh numerous economic indicators before making any substantial adjustments. Sudden changes can introduce unintended consequences if they are not supported by broader economic fundamentals. Short-term developments for the Iraqi dinar are therefore likely to continue reflecting official monetary policy, oil market conditions, government budget execution, regional stability, banking reforms, and investor confidence. Global energy prices remain particularly important because petroleum exports account for a substantial share of Iraq's public revenue. Strong oil revenues generally improve fiscal flexibility, while lower prices may create additional budgetary pressures. Long-term prospects depend on whether Iraq successfully expands its private sector, attracts sustainable investment, reduces dependence on oil income, improves infrastructure, strengthens governance, and continues implementing financial reforms. Progress across these areas would enhance the country's overall economic resilience, regardless of any future decisions concerning exchange rate policy. Another important consideration involves foreign direct investment. International companies evaluating opportunities in Iraq typically assess regulatory stability, legal protections, infrastructure quality, workforce availability, financial transparency, and security conditions alongside currency considerations. Exchange rates represent only one factor within a much broader investment framework. For members of the Iraqi dinar community, it can be tempting to interpret every positive economic announcement as confirmation of an imminent currency event. However, professional financial analysis requires distinguishing between developments that improve the long-term investment environment and developments that directly affect exchange rate policy. While these two subjects are related, they are not identical. Historical experience from many emerging economies demonstrates that meaningful financial reforms often occur gradually. Banking modernization, improved payment systems, stronger regulatory oversight, expanded private investment, and economic diversification typically require sustained policy implementation over extended periods. Investors who follow these developments benefit from maintaining realistic expectations and relying on verified information from official institutions whenever possible. The broader message emerging from today's discussion is that Iraq continues pursuing reforms intended to strengthen its economy and financial system. International cooperation remains active, modernization efforts continue, and policymakers have expressed their commitment to improving economic performance. These are constructive developments that deserve attention. At the same time, claims that any specific exchange rate outcome is guaranteed should be treated cautiously unless supported by official announcements from the relevant monetary authorities. Responsible financial analysis recognizes both opportunity and uncertainty. Iraq possesses meaningful long-term economic potential, but future currency policy will ultimately depend on economic data, institutional decision-making, and evolving domestic and international conditions. Investors and observers alike are best served by focusing on confirmed reforms, official policy statements, and measurable economic indicators, rather than relying solely on speculation. As additional information becomes available from the Central Bank of Iraq, government ministries, international financial organizations, and verified economic reports, market participants will gain a clearer understanding of the country's monetary direction. Until then, maintaining a balanced perspective remains essential. Thank you for watching Iraqi Dinar News. If you appreciate responsible, factual, and balanced coverage of Iraqi dinar developments and Iraq's economy, please subscribe to the channel and like the video so you never miss future updates. As always, this content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It reflects analysis of publicly discussed economic topics and should not be considered financial, investment, or trading advice. Always conduct your own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making any investment decisions.